Celtics Post-Game Live is presented by your New England Ford dealers. Built for America. Built Ford proud.
But it's no longer what could be or what might be. Now it just is. The 2024 Boston Celtics are one of the greatest teams in NBA history. They were told they had to win. There's only one thing you can do when expectations are that high. Meet them. And there's only one way to stop being haunted by the ghosts and the legends and the champions atop this building. Join them. Together they have, and together they stand alone on top of the mountain for now. And once again, the Boston Celtics stand alone for all time. It is banner 18. The mission demanded is mission accomplished.
All right, for the first time in 16 years, the Boston Celtics are NBA champions. The 2024 Celtics delivering banner 18. Top Giles, Chris Forsberg. We got Drew Carter as well. Eddie and Scal are both down on the floor. They're going to be giving you all of the celebration that's going on down there. Abby's down there as well. So we got plenty to get to. We're going to be up for a while with you, and we'll be taking it up late at night. But Chris, as someone that's covered this team as long as you have, what was going through your mind there watching this one?
Am I supposed to make sense on this program? Because I'm not going to make sense at all tonight. Look, this is awesome. Like, it's so weird to come into a year where there's such heightened expectations, and they're supposed to be here, and they're supposed to win a title, but it takes so many steps, and they never skipped any of them, and they just kept their eye on the finish line, and here they are, total team effort in Game 5, with the Jays sort of leading the way, and now all of a sudden we got these fresh little cards here.
Sign some of those bad boys for us.
What do we got?
Tom, you're going to ask me the same question as someone who's covered this team for such a long time.
I was going to say, this doesn't happen every year, Drew.
I think it might. Maybe this is the first of many, potentially. I mean, this team is just beautifully constructed, Giles, and every piece fits so well. We were up there talking in the media row. Can we have the first co-MVPs in finals history? Because you could have given it to Jalen. You could have given it to Jason. It would have been poetic for those two guys to come together like they did, surrounded by essentially a team of superheroes. Like, that's the type of cast we're talking about. Brad Stevens, Joe Mazzulla, the Jays, everyone around them deserves so much credit. It's just a beautifully constructed team.
And by the way, there's a look at what's going on outside the Garden. It's going to be absolute mayhem out there.
I need to be out there.
Can we just say, the Garden was absolutely spectacular night. From the jump, actually before the jump. You know, Kristaps Porzingis comes walking down the tunnel. This place was electric, and I think the players fed off that. You know, every time Dallas maybe tried to have some sort of response, there was nothing there. Celtics up by 21 at the half, and they hang on in the second half and just get the better of Dallas Mavericks, winning this one by 18 points. But absolutely everybody contributed to this win. And then you get to watch these guys celebrate afterwards down on the floor, and the emotion. You have Jason Tatum with his son Deuce, and Al Horford, who's been going at this for how long?
Oh, yeah.
For him to get it. Jaylen Brown, as you mentioned, NBA Finals MVP.
With his mom down there. Yeah. I mean, that was a tearjerker. Not to be dramatic, but I got emotional a couple times during that trophy ceremony. That was amazing. I mean, think about what you just said, Giles, and they just released that episode of the All In documentary, and it was just called The Family, and it's all about every person in those players' lives who helped them reach this level and reach this point, and to see them all celebrate. It's just really cool.
And look, while I'm sure I'll be interested to see the voting and like where Jalen and Jason, but they probably almost split the vote. We were joking about the co-MVP thing, but for Jalen to get that moment, it's just so awesome. Like he had waited so long to sort of be elevated to that level as like the respect of your peers, and even though he got the contract, everyone just sort of like balked at the idea that he was a $300 million player, and then he just came back even better, and then he gets snubbed for All NBA, and he took it out on everybody throughout the postseason run. And man, I just thought it was so cool that he got that moment, that chance to celebrate.
Well, I mean, you go back to the Indiana series where he doesn't make an All-NBA team, goes out, wins Eastern Conference Finals MVP, then follows it up with the NBA Finals MVP. But I think for those two guys, like this was all about winning a championship, and you could really see that on the floor. Just Jason Tatum overcome with emotion as he goes to the bench?
So like, I went back today and I was rewatching an interview we did right after going into the 22-23 season. So they're coming off losing to Golden State in the finals, and we put the Jays together and they sat there and Jalen says to Jason, "I want to win. Do you want to win?" And Jason chuckles. He's like, "Yeah, I want to win." And he's like, "So individual stuff doesn't matter. All we care about is winning." And that's what this season was. Like, they sacrificed everything for the betterment of the team and bringing in Porzingis and bringing in Drew Holiday and embracing everybody up and down the roster and everyone just playing their role. And it was those two guys that sort of spearheaded everything, and they are rewarded now with the conversation completely changes. No longer are we sitting here trying
It doesn't matter.
Right. They're champions.
They're winners. That's the only title that matters, is they are champions. I go back to the fourth quarter when the game was in hand, and it sort of felt like, Kyrie and Luke are trying to boost their stat lines, and maybe Jalen and Jason are going back and forth a little bit, like who's going to pad their numbers to win MVP. And there's a point where Jalen drives, gets fouled, just barely misses the layup, just barely misses the and one. And I was watching Tatum at the top of the key, and he was like, he really wanted that to go in. It wasn't about, I hope his stats aren't as good so I can get the MVP. It's never been about that. But because the team was so good all season, people got bored and said, what do we talk about with the Celtics? It's got to be these guys don't like each other. Guess what they do?
I want to see the celebration in the locker room. I got to look to the right here. I'm here on my monitor.
Oh, you're fine. We do have to have this conversation as well.
Go.
The expectations going into the season. The expectations were that this team should win the NBA championship. It was like that from wire to wire, where it was basically, if they don't win, it's going to be a disappointment. And they handled that. They embraced it. Joe Mazzulla talked about that, meeting the expectations, meeting the pressure.
But it's so hard to do.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Yes.
It's just like, I think people, you can go, maybe what Joe Mazzulla says it back. You can't go into anything with expectations because things are going to change, and they're just like, it's a roller coaster throughout the season. And yet this team was about as consistent as any team I've ever seen.
Yes.
Never losing more than 2 games in a row. Always kind of finding itself. And this is the celebration they deserve.
Where's Abby?
Abby is down there, by the way. Scal, Eddie, both down on the floor as they're going to be catching up with players, family members, everything as we bring this to you here. The Celtics 2024
What do we got to do to get a bottle of champagne up here?
Can someone go down there and retrieve one? Can we get the Drizzly to deliver one? Okay.
I'll take some Bud Light, anything. Count me out here, people.
The expectation, I love that conversation, because the fact of the matter is, it never had to be a conversation. That was the first question asked in the trophy ceremony. Lisa Salters talking to Wick Grossbeck. The expectations were so high around this team. And Wick basically said, who cares about the expectation? We're the Boston Celtics. Of course we expect to win championships, right? This is the 18th banner. No one has ever won more. So of course they expect to win championships. And when Brad Stevens and Mike Zarin and Dave Lewin and Austin Ainge put together a roster like this, no question you should win. And that's what they did. And Giles, they never even really had to sweat, to be honest, in the playoffs.
But because they were that good.
Yes.
Like everyone's going to dissect the past.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Who
exactly.
cares?
It doesn't matter. We never look back and say, the 96-97 Bulls had an easy first-round matchup. No, they were just good, and they dominated the rest of the league. And eventually, we'll respect what the Celtics did this year. And where do they get all these goggles?
This is really neat to watch, guys, because when you're around the team every day, you get to meet people that kind of fly under the radar. Like, obviously, we know Wick and Pags and the owners, but when Al Horford came off the floor for the last time with 2 minutes, he embraced Pat Chase, the head athletic trainer. I see Craig Lucianat walking by. I think that actually is Pat blowing the champagne. He embraced Pat Chase. You see these guys every time you go to a hotel gym, they're in there working. And you're looking at Al Horford, who's in years, 17? He just turned 38. It's like, how does this guy continue to play at such a high level? It's because of the work he puts in and the support system he has. And so to see this picture where, yes, you've got 15 guys on the team, but